The Reliant Motor Company, known for producing cheap, three-wheeled economy cars. Reliant are remembered as a bit of a joke company who made crappy, unreliable, impractical machines that basically every popular British TV show has made fun of. However, I don't think this should be the case, as Reliant actually did make some cool cars, such as the Sabre and the Scimitar. Princess Anne had one of those, a handsome sports car produced for over 20 years. However, that's not the topic of this video. We will be discussing its smaller, cheaper, and more angular brother/son. What's that? You've never heard of this cute little convertible? Well, you're in luck, because today we're exploring the story of the Reliant Scimitar SS1. Our story starts in the year 1977. Reliant had just gone through a major reorganisation which saw the scrapping of multiple projects, including a people carrier, apparently, which would have been rather interesting. Instead, Reliant decided they should create a simple, affordable, small, open-top sports car, something which was a bit of a gap in the market at this point. The MG Midget did exist, but only just as it was on its way out. Reliant came up with the idea of basing their new car on an existing mass-produced saloon car, and it just so happens they were working with Vauxhall, who were developing their own two-seat convertible sports car, the Vauxhall Equus. Reliant and Vauxhall discussed putting this into production with Panther Westwinds, the company who'd made the prototype. However, this fell through, the Equus was never produced, and Reliant were back to square one. So, instead of relying on a larger manufacturer, they decided to just do it themselves. They asked legendary car designer Giovanni Michelotti to design the exterior, and he came up with this striking wedge-shaped design that looks a lot like the TR7. Unfortunately though, this would be his last design as he passed away in 1980. The body of the SS1, which stood for Small Sports 1, would be made of plastic panels which were mounted to a steel semi-space frame backbone chassis. It was to be front-engined, rear-wheel drive, and had independent suspension all around. Engine-wise, a 1.3 litre or 1.6 litre engine, both from the Ford Escort, were to be available, with a 4-speed manual with the 1.3 and a 5-speed for the 1.6. The 1.3 was later replaced with a 1.4, also from Ford. The SS1 was delayed due to further reorganisation, but it was eventually launched at the 1984 British International Motor Show in Birmingham. It received favourable reviews from the press. Motorsport magazine said, "The Scimitar SS1 is the natural heir to the Spridgets and Spitfires, MGBs and TR7s of a few years ago." And Car magazine said, "Reliant's new Scimitar SS1 Roadster is no reincarnated MGB. Instead, it's a lot better." The 1.6 litre version had 96 brake horsepower and 133 pound-feet of torque, giving it a top speed of 110 miles an hour and a 0 to 60 time of 9.6 seconds. Now, this might sound bad, but the SS1 wasn't really about performance. It was about thrashing around country roads in the summer with the roof down and the wind in your hair, and for that, it was excellent. However, it did have some issues. The first was the styling, which was criticised for being a bit awkward. I can understand that, because it just doesn't look right. Maybe it's the small wheels, the small wheelbase, the wheel arches, it just looks like something is off. Another issue were the panel gaps. Due to the SS1 being hand-built, and due to Reliant not having access to advanced technology like lasers to bounce off the body, a lot of the panels varied in size and shape, and so there were a lot of gaps. In 1986 there were some small changes. A galvanised chassis was introduced and it lost a windscreen wiper. However, it gained a 1.8 litre turbocharged Nissan engine from the Bluebird. This model was known as the 1800 Ti. It had 135 brake horsepower, 143 pound-feet of torque, a top speed of 126 miles an hour and a 0 to 60 time of 6.8 seconds. This is slightly debated, however, as different motoring magazines had different results. But if this figure was accurate, it would put it on par with the Audi Quattro, Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX, and the Renault 5 Turbo. The 1800 Ti would humiliate hot hatchbacks such as the Golf GTI and Escort XR3i, which had replaced the traditional British sports car. In 1988, General Motors approached Reliant with an idea. Reliant Scimitar SS1 with either a V8 or a 3.1 litre V6, different sources say different things, made especially for the US market. Reliant got William Towns to redesign the new Reliant Scimitar SS2, and to be honest, it looks much better than the SS1. With a big engine, low weight, good looks, and rear-wheel drive, the SS2 probably would have been an absolutely fantastic car. I say would have been, as GM unfortunately pulled the plug. However, Town's design would not get wasted. The SS1 was produced until 1990 when it was replaced by the SST, which used many elements from Town's earlier design. The issue of panel gaps was also improved via a new construction method. Instead of being made of plastic panels mounted to a frame, the SST had a semi-monocoque design with two fiberglass sections, the front and the rear, mounted directly on the chassis. The 1800 Ti engine returned along with the Ford 1.4 and 1.6 litre engines, and a 5-speed manual gearbox was available. Press reviews were mixed. In a road test in June 1990, Car Magazine said, "What the Scimitar gains in neatness, it loses in distinctiveness." However, they said it had a remarkably agile chassis and wonderfully precise steering. Now, what very important event in automotive history happened around the time of the SST's release in 1990? That's right, the Mazda MX-5 was introduced. This, arguably, is one of the most important reasons as to why the SST failed. The MX-5 was much more reliable, much better built, and much better looking. The SST was produced for just 2 years until it was redesigned and renamed the Reliant Scimitar Sabre. It had larger 15-inch wheels, flared wheel arches, and a new 1.4 litre Rover K-Series engine. The turbocharged Nissan and the Ford Escort engines also returned. The Scimitar Sabre is, in my opinion, the best looking version of the SS1, especially after the slight restyle in 1994. However, it was unfortunately too late. Reliant ended production in 1995 to focus on three-wheeled cars, and they went defunct in 2001. The Reliant Scimitar SS1 is one of those automotive what-ifs. What if it was originally designed by William Towns? What if they had successfully entered the US market? Would Reliant still be around today? I think not. The introduction of the MX-5 was just too much. A small company like Reliant never could have competed with Mazda. Today the Scimitar SS1 is largely forgotten, except by a few Reliant fans, and you can pick one up for just a few grand. According to how many left, there are 95 Scimitar SS1s, 18 Scimitar Sabres, and 1 Scimitar SST left on the road. So, if you're looking for something small, unique, not exceptionally good looking, but extremely fun to drive, maybe you should give the Reliant Scimitar SS1 a chance. Anyway, that is it from me today. If you did enjoy this video, please do go down below, leave a like, maybe even subscribe. I do hope to see you next time. Goodbye.